Now, Senator Bernie Sanders is not happy with Donald Trump's recent decision to cut financial regulations on Wall Street. Now, during an interview with on CNN with Jake Tapper, Vermont Senator laid into Donald Trump for not only signing an executive order to dismantle Dodd-Frank, but also putting Goldman Sachs into his cabinet. Let's take a look.
You know, it is hard not to laugh to see President Trump alongside these Wall Street guys. To say this, Jake, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. This guy is a fraud. This guy ran for president of the United States saying, Donald Trump, I'm going to take on Wall Street. These guys are getting away with murder. Then suddenly he appoints all of these billionaires. His major financial advisor comes from Goldman Sachs, and now he's going to dismantle legislation that protects consumers. This is a guy who ran for president saying, I'm the only Republican. I'm not going to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And then he appoints all of these guys who are precisely going to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So I hope that all of those folks who voted for Mr. Trump because he thought that he would stand up for working people, man, this guy is, he is a good showman. I will give you that. He's a good TV guy. But I think he's going to sell out the middle class and the working class of this country and that business on Wall Street. He told us, in fact, it's in the Republican platform, he is going to bring back Glass-Steagall. We're going to be dividing up commercial banks from investor banks from insurance companies. Then he has all of the big Wall Street guys on his side, and now he's working for Wall Street.
Nailed it. I mean, there's not a whole lot more you can say about that. I mean, I think Donald Trump supporters, the ones who actually thought that he might actually try to clean up the system, you've been duped, guys. I mean, unless you like the global financial elite, unless you loved it when Steven Mnuchin was running One West and, foreclosed on your home. I bet that was awesome, right? Especially when he did it fraudulently. Or, of course, unless you're somebody who's just, super rich. I mean, Donald Trump has been doing all that he can to help super rich people.
Yeah, those are the only people that will likely not be duped. I mean, the people that voted on the single issue of we are very rich and we want whoever has our best interest as far as taxes go in mind. Those people will not be let down by Donald Trump. Every other person will be. The people that thought he would have the working classes back, they've been sold snake oil. There's no such thing as a populist Republican. Can we just state the obvious? That's not a thing. Maybe it was back in the 50s. In fact, it probably was back in the 50s. But a pro-union Republican is a lot like dinosaurs. They don't exist anymore. I've read about them. And the religious right tries to downplay their existence. That's what it's not a thing anymore. So there's no such thing as a populist Republican. That is not a thing. Because it completely contradicts what the GOP is about now. Maybe that wasn't the case in the history of the party, but now, yeah, it's not a thing.
You're wrong on one thing, though. There is one union that Republicans absolutely enthusiastically love: police unions.
Fair enough.
Got to point that out.
Fair enough. I'll give you that.
But look, as far as, it depends on your definition of populism, right? So populism isn't necessarily a positive connotation, and it isn't necessarily a negative connotation. It depends what's popular. That's what it's talking about. Well, what's popular with a certain section of America? Racism. That seems to be popular with a certain subsection of America. And that's exactly one of the things that Donald Trump ran on. Racism. Also fear, right? Fear of Muslims, Islamophobia. That's just a couple of populism things. And yes, also, hey, I'm going to bring back jobs. I'm going to help the working class in some way. And I'm going to go after the global financial elite. He didn't do that. And so, but you're right. He's only there to help himself and fellow rich people. And yes, he may have, saved a couple hundred jobs here and there with the carrier deal and stuff like that. But that's at the expense of massive amounts of taxpayer money in the form of giant tax cuts for these multinational corporations. For carrier, you spent how much money on saving 700 jobs? Somebody's going to have to pay for that. And then this corporation...
Well, and then he lost more.
Yeah, and this corporation is going to end up paying less than you in taxes because of this deal. So, you make the best deals. Best deals for whom?
But when you're, I mean, just to, and I mean, we could go back and forth about what populism, and nitpick the term, but populism also, when you're using it in the political sense, you're referring to something with dominant public opinion.
Right.
And when you live in a country where, the corporate elite is such a small percentage, and, I'd also like to think that racism, xenophobia, stuff like that is also not a huge percentage. It's a bigger percentage than I think a lot of us realized prior to November, but it's still not a huge percentage. So just because of that, when you're looking at populism from a political standpoint, and the GOP is the party of the elite, then yeah, you can't be a populist Republican. Like, it makes no sense. It's not possible. Maybe on certain issues, like racism and stuff like that. But it's like you're not an actual populist Republican. Like that's just an oxymoron in today's contemporary society.
But that's why they lie all the time. I mean, that's why you had the lie about, President Obama is stealing $600 billion from Medicare. I will save it. Actually, that's bullshit, right? Because that's actually the savings in Medicare spending under the ACA. They don't add that context because they don't give a damn about context. They're saying they're trying to use populist appeals because Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are some of the most popular programs in the country. You also have, even investments in green energy are popular with Donald Trump supporters. There's a poll, right-leaning poll, by the way, by a Republican pollster, that found that 75% of Trump supporters are like, yeah, renewable energy makes sense. Let's expand it. Let's expand funding. Populism, right? And so, I mean, this is also, to go back to another angle here, this is what frustrates me about the Democrats so much, is because they don't understand. They don't understand populism. Bernie Sanders was the only guy that understood populism, right? And that's because he actually means it. That's because he actually does want to protect these programs. But you have people out there, you had Hillary Clinton running on non-populist. No, let's keep things status quo. Let's not do too much in the banks. Let's not do too much of this. No health care, nothing universal like that. I mean, come on. They don't know how to use populism to their advantage. And I don't want them just using populism to win elections and then, do this to everybody once they win. I actually want them to actually do the policies that are popular. Now, whether or not our system, and I don't think it does, allows for politicians to do that, especially after they've taken money from these giant corporations that actually hate these programs and want to get rid of them so they can save money in taxes. Well, I mean, that's the system that we have. And we need to change that. But anyway, again, so Bernie Sanders is essentially saying, though, about Donald Trump and these Republicans, is that it's okay, you got taken in by a smooth talker. He did say he was going to protect Social Security. He did say he was going to protect Medicare. He even said, and I remember this, that he was going to tax hedge fund guys on Wall Street. Oh, those hedge funders, they're making too much money. We're going to tax them. Where's that proposal? Where's that executive order? Not that I'm saying that you could do that with all this stuff on executive orders. You actually can't. He's not a fucking king. But anything, like, is he pushing Congress on it? No, of course not. And even if he did, the Congress isn't actually going to do anything. But it would be him actually trying to at least give the impression that he was serious about doing those kinds of policies. No, the only things that I see, massive giveaways to the rich. And the only things that he's actually done is try to do executive orders to see about building a wall that won't stop tunnels, by the way, won't stop drugs. There's a
it's a huge waste of money.
A huge waste of money. A tremendous waste of money. It won't stop planes. It won't stop tunnels. It won't stop drugs. There's a story earlier in the Huffington Post over the weekend that I found. There's people that traffickers that build like drug cannons to shoot it over the border. They're shooting drugs over the border. Well, going to stop that? I guess if it's high enough. But these people are not going to. I mean, they're not going to be. Oh, they're not going to see the wall and be like, damn, there's a wall in our way. I guess we'll just give up the drug trade. That's ridiculous. They're going to find other ways to get in and to send the drugs in.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and this is just not even touching on the most obvious factor here, that it is grossly unnecessary. Just grossly unnecessary. Nothing but nationalistic xenophobia and racism. And such a huge waste. I still don't think we know the exact final number that thing's going to cost. And it is just such a shame. When we live in a country where people are saying we can't possibly have health care or education, and the fact that this is even a talking point is beyond bizarre.
It is. And like the initial low ball projections, $25 billion. Mm-hmm. That's low ball. That's not anything to do with staffing or using American steel, as Donald Trump has promised to use, which is funny because he says, I'm going to use American steel for the wall, but he wouldn't even use it for his own companies. There were stories out during the election where he's like, we're going to buy Chinese steel. Come on, man. Really? I mean, yes.
They may have made up global warming, but they're good at making steel.
They're great at making steel. The best steel. The cheapest steel. And actually, Chinese steel is actually way substandard too. That's the iron. That's why it's so cheap. That's why it's so cheap. But hey, man, at least after all that, Donald Trump, he's still a good TV guy.
Yeah, I mean, he is. You can't really take that from him. He knows what he's doing on a reality television show.
That's true.
But
hey, everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.